While the outcome of the ongoing U.S. election will more likely hinge on the performance of the American economy than on any foreign policy issue, many Africans and investors with an interest in the continent are wondering what an Obama or Romney presidency would mean for the region. Now, joining me in the studio to discuss this is Opeyemi Agbaje. He's a CEO at RTC Advisory Services. Great to have you in the studio, Opeyemi. Now, true fact is, whoever wins this election will certainly significantly impact America's position on foreign policy. And looking at that, looking at both sides, both Romney and Obama, what should we expect in terms of their positions on foreign policy in this region?
Well, most of them have not paid attention to Africa in all the debates that we had. Incidentally, it was Mitt Romney that spent some time talking about Mali and the impact of Al-Qaeda in North Africa and all of that. I expect Mitt Romney to take a harder stand on terrorism, on Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, in the Sahelian region, Boko Haram in Nigeria, than perhaps Barack Obama has done. In terms of economic cooperation, I imagine that both will be the same. Everyone will further U.S. investor interest, will try to promote U.S. trade. It's funny that George Bush spent resources on Africa in the area of AIDS and all of that, which he gets little credit for. Perhaps we would expect Mitt Romney to also continue along that line.
Right, but I mean, you talked about Mitt Romney being the only one to really talk about Africa, and certainly people believe that he's certainly a private sector guy. He's certainly going to use that sector and trade to how do I say, fuel growth in America going forward. Now, certainly we can expect deeper trade agreements if he does win this election, but the reality is, of the fact is that you said he talked about Mali, but most of the region he really does talk about is Sudan, South Sudan. He doesn't show much interest in the West African region. So is Romney really the president that West Africans should be looking at?
I don't think any of them is an African president. Even Obama, who is black, who is African originally, has paid scant attention to Africa, visited once, spoke to us, in my view, in a rather condescending manner. His policy has not reflected any emphasis on Africa. I think from the point of view of from the economic agenda, I think that perhaps Africa may have something to gain from a Mitt Romney presidency. If the U.S. grows stronger, creates bigger economic trade agreements, like you said, yes, investments will flow towards Africa, trade will multiply. I think what Africa will hope for from the Obama, on the other hand, if he wins, is that this second term he will have an African policy, something which seemed to be missing in his first term.
Now, I mean, I think an area that needs to be addressed when we're talking about the Western African region is certainly the threat that Islamic terrorist groups pose right now. Do you think what America has done so far under the Obama's presidency has been enough to curb that threat? And going forward, do you think any of these presidents are really interested in dealing with this region?
Quite frankly, I have personally been disappointed with Obama and Clinton's attitude, for instance, to Boko Haram in Nigeria. They vacillated, they refused to designate it as a foreign terrorist organization. I think they were not watching and allowed Al-Qaeda essentially to take over Mali. Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb and in the Sahelian region has spread all over Somalia and all of that. There are positives, and I'm encouraged by the recent UN resolution on Mali. But if you do an overall assessment in terms of the threat of fundamentalism in the West African region in particular, I would think that at best the Obama-Clinton era has scored at best an average.
Now, I mean, let's be realistic. Most Africans are looking at Obama as the next president, but I mean, he's already had one term. And I'll just read out an excerpt from a Zimbabwean newspaper, and they said there is indeed nothing that the ordinary African or revolutionary Africa has gained from Obama except a backlash for failing to support gay rights, to observe Eurocentric and American ethnocentric values of democracy, good governance, and accountability. So, I mean, a good question is what really, I mean, we're all looking towards Obama, you know, but what really has he done for Africa?
Obama is a sentimental choice, and some of us have criticized that choice as being too unquestioning, too uncritical. He is clearly, we have a racial, he's our brother, he's president, he's charismatic and all of that. But yes, I'm clear in my mind that he has paid no attention to Africa. We've gained nothing from him. In fact, it's debatable if we didn't gain more as an African continent from George W. Bush. I mean, in terms of investment in Africa, in AIDS and in trade and all of that. Having said that, that's why I said our hope is that if he does win the second time, he'll pay more attention to Africa. Right. But and then like that report said, on the dimension of AIDS and linking it with gay rights support, I don't think that was a popular action across Africa.
And I mean, I think a sector that's really important is the oil sector. America is one of our greatest consumers of oil. Now, people do believe, looking at Romney, he's a president we want. If we're going to look at Nigeria, which is an oil-dependent country, I mean, Romney, he believes fossil fuels are crucial. He talks about rapid development of shale gas and oil, greater investment in nuclear power. Now, Obama, on the other hand, he's talking about producing domestic or developing domestic fossil fuel reserves as well as a range of alternative energy resources. So, I mean, when you look at it, Romney seems to be better for us, but at the end of the day, really...
Let me nuance that a bit. Right. I think both Romney and Obama will seek U.S. energy independence. So either way, Nigerian policymakers have to promote a policy that is less dependent on the export of crude oil. The U.S., irrespective of who's president, is going to be investing in greater U.S. oil, alternative shale gas, all those things, and electric cars and all of that. And so we're going to have to build an economy that is a little bit more diversified, irrespective of who is the U.S. president. Yes, Romney will be a private sector guy. I think if I were a U.S. voter interested in economic growth and jobs, he looks to me like the better candidate, but that does not necessarily translate to being better for Nigeria, especially in terms of oil production.
So your view is there's no better candidate for Africa currently, especially the West African region?
There's a sentimental candidate, but I suspect that we need to be a little more questioning.
In terms of our economic interests, is there a better candidate?
I'm not sure there will be a significant difference. For America, there will be, in my view. But for West Africa, for Nigeria, I doubt that our fortunes depend on what they do in Washington. I think it depends on what we do in Lagos, in Johannesburg, in Accra, in Nairobi, and those other places.
Right. Now, very quickly, who's your candidate?
Personally, I'm one of those critical voters, and I'm asking, what has Obama done for us?